Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to whoever watched this video. So today, I will be discussing and critically evaluating the implementation of the assessment in the Malaysian elementary science education. We will focus on the current changes in the systems, particularly the abolition of UPSR and the adoption of continuous assessment practices under the KSSR. This shift aimed to address the weaknesses of traditional testing methods and enhance the overall learning experience for students. In this presentation, I will evaluate the strengths and the weaknesses of the current assessment approach and propose solution to further improve it. First of all, we go to the strength of the current assessment system. In my opinion, there are three strengths of the current assessment system, in which the first one, the abolition of UPSR and transition to the continuous assessment. The second one is the holistic evaluation through KSSR, and the third one is the data-driven insight that this current assessment system has brought. So the first rank, in 2022, Malaysia abolished the UPSR as a part of broader effort to reduce exam pressure and provide a more comprehensive assessment of student learning. The focus now is ongoing assessment, where student progress is evaluated through a series of smaller assessment rather than relying on one high-stakes exam. This shift is based on understanding that learning is actually a continuous process, and evaluating students' progress throughout their schooling years provide a better pictures of their abilities. The introduction of Petak Siram Bilik Darjah (PBD) or classroom assessment allows for more personalized assessment which are conducted throughout the year. Teachers assess students' work in various forms, such as assignment, project, and even oral presentation itself. This continuous assessment approach encourage active participation and learning, which lead to a deeper understanding of science concept rather than mere focus on memorization. Second, the Curriculum Standard Sekolah Rendah (KSSR) was introduced in 2011, focused on developing a well-rounded student. It places emphasis on cognitive, emotional, and social growth. Science education under KSSR encourage inquiry-based learning, where students explore and experiment, allowing them to apply scientific concepts in real-life situations. This approach is supported by various forms of assessment, including formative assessment, which are designed to identify strengths and areas of improvement early on. So this holistic approach not only focuses on academic success, but also aims to develop student critical thinking, problem skills, and teamwork skill, which are essential for their future success, both in academic and life. The last rank of this continuous assessment for me is because it's data-driven insight. There's a software that is called as STUFS, in which is the System Taburan Ujian Fasa Sekolah. It is a data collection system that tracks the student learning outcomes. Thus, by analyzing performance across different schools, this system provides valuable insight into areas where students need additional support. Okay, thus this allow the policymakers and the teachers or the educator itself to adjust teaching strategies, and interventions to better meet the students' needs across the nation. Thus, this can help in address the disparities in the educational performance between the rural and the urban schools. So we go to the second part of the presentation, in which is the weaknesses of the current assessment system. In my opinion, there are three of the weaknesses of the current assessment system, in which is the unequal implementation of continuous assessment. The second one is the lack of practical science assessment, and the last one is the inequity in resources. Okay, let us go through for the first weakness of the continuous assessment. It is its unequal implementation. We all know that the shift toward continuous assessment under PBD is accepted by many, is welcomed by many, but its implementation is uneven across the school. Why? Because the success of this assessment or this approach heavily depends on the competency of teachers and the consistency with which assessment are carried out. A study from KPM itself found that some teachers are struggle with the effective use of PBD, often due to the lack of training and resources. As a result, there is a significant gap in the quality of the assessment across the school, especially between the rural school and the urban schools. This inconsistency leads to the disparities in the student evaluation, and sometimes it can affect the overall fairness of the system. So, another critical weakness is the limited emphasis on practical science skills in the assessment. While KSSR promotes inquiry based learning, assessments still largely focus on theoretical knowledge. In many classrooms, practical experiments and hands on activities are not sufficiently incorporated into the evaluation process. This gap limits student ability to develop essential scientific skills such as experimentation, data analysis, and critical thinking. So, without opportunities to demonstrate practical knowledge, the students are less likely to fully engage with the subject matter and end up reducing their interest and their understanding of science. So the last weakness is the inequity in resources. Despite efforts to improve the system, there is a noticeably disparity in resources available to school, particularly between urban and rural areas. While urban schools often have modern science lab and the access to digital tools, many rural schools lack in these essential resources. This inequality not only affects the quality of teaching, but it also impacts the way assessments are carried out. Students in rural schools may have fewer opportunities to engage in practical science assessment, thus receiving less comprehensive evaluation of their skill and knowledge. Okay, we have talked about its weakness. Now I'm going to talk about the proposed solution that we can actually bring out to overcome these weaknesses. So the first one is the professional development of training for the teachers. The number two is integration of practical assessment. Number three, addressing the resource inequality. And the last one, we can actually monitoring and feedback mechanism. In my opinion, professional development and training for teachers is one of the most critical steps to improving the implementation of the continuous assessment by providing teachers with more professional development opportunities. So the teachers should be trained to effectively carry out formative assessment and use them to inform their teaching practices. Training should focus not only the practical aspect of assessment, but also on how to engage students in inquiry-based learning. This will ensure that the assessments are fair across the school and that the teacher can um, effectively support all of the students. So the second step is the integration of practical assessment. To strengthen the students' scientific inquiry skills, it is essential to integrate more practical assessment into the science curriculum. School should place a greater emphasis on evaluating student ability to conduct experiments, to analyze results, and to present their findings. This could be achieved by incorporating project-based assessment and science fairs into the curriculum. Thus, this can actually encouraging the students to design and conduct their own experiment will help them to develop a more deeper understanding of science and improve their problem solving skills. So the third step that we can actually take is addressing the resource inequality. So to ensure equal opportunities for all students, the government should increase funding and resources for rural schools, particularly in terms of science lab and digital learning tools. By providing school with the necessary materials, the government can ensure that all students have access to the same level of education, regardless of their geographic location. Additionally, online learning platform could be leveraged to provide remote school with access to virtual lab and interactive learning tools. So the last step that we can take is by monitoring and feedback mechanism. So to ensure that PBD and other form of assessment are being implemented effectively, the KPM should establish a stronger monitoring and feedback mechanism. Regular audits and assessment of the assessment practices in school can help identify the areas for improvement and ensure that teachers are adhering the best practices. Moreover, I think schools should also engage with parents to keep them informed about their children's progress and how they are actually being assessed. In conclusion, while the abolition of the UPSR and the shift to the continuous assessment under KSSR represent significant progress in Malaysian education system, there are still important areas that requires attention. By focusing on teacher training, increasing the emphasis on practical science assessment, addressing that resource inequalities, and strengthening the monitoring system, I am sure that Malaysia can ensure a more equitable, more effective, and a holistic approach to education. These changes will not only help improve the academic outcomes, but also ensure that students develop the critical skill necessary for their future success. I think that is all from me. Thank you.